It's official. December the 5th, 2019, the Commodore 64 is reborn, 37 years after its initial release in 1982. So who are these masterminds behind this rebirth of the biggest selling computer of all time? Retro Games Limited. So how good though is the machine that they're producing? How good are the games that are preloaded on the C64? Well, let's see what we know so far by analysing the C64 promo video and use the Commodore 64 Bible of the 1980s, Zzap 64 magazine, to see if these pre-installed games are any good. So let's get started. Welcome to the bravest man on earth. This must be big news if you're willing to record over your wedding tape, Dead Man Walking. The home computing scene in 2019 looks pretty